Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, and in this video I am attempting to build my own PC from scratch. If you've any comments on how useful you thought this video was and how you think I built my PC, please leave them down in the description below. If you're a first time building your PC and you're unsure how to go about it, I hope you get some idea of how to go about building your own PC from watching this video. If you enjoyed this, please say so in the comments. If I made any mistakes over the course of this PC build, please say how would you done that particular mistake differently. Any feedback I get would be much appreciated, and I hope this will be first of many PC builds. If I do make any mistakes, I hope to rectify those mistakes in a future video and how to rectify those mistakes that I've made during this build. As I know, when you go about building your own PC from scratch, it can be very daunting and very nerve-wracking to try and watch what you're doing when you have all your parts together. So let's get into this PC build. Now, the CPU I'm using for this particular build is the Ryzen 7 3700X, along with it, and I'm going to use the cooler and fan that came with this particular CPU. The motherboard I'm using is the Republic of Gaming Sterex B550F gaming motherboard, and this particular motherboard does not have the wireless built into it at all. It just comes without the Wi-Fi part of it. And the memory I'm using here is this here, which is the Corsair Vengeance LPX DDR4 with the 216 gigabytes memory, which gives me an overall 32 gigs. These RAM sticks, these RAM have a frequency of 3200 megahertz. For the main bootable drive I'm going to use here is this one here, which is the Kingston KC2500 NVMe Express, which has a capacity of 250 gigabytes, and I'm going to use this here as my main boot drive. To hold the main operating system on the M.2 slot next the CPU socket of this motherboard. And for the second M.2 drive, I'm going to use this other M.2 SSD or solid state drive, which is a Kingston A2000 with a capacity of 500 gigs, which I could use as maybe personal files or whatever other reason. Now I think it's time to start putting this build together. Now, one of the most important things you need here when you're dealing with, say, computer components like the motherboard, your RAM, your CPU, your M.2 SSD drives, and any other delicate computer component, always make sure you use an anti-static mat like this here. I have an anti-static wristband here, which I then connect with this cable here, where one end kind of clicks here like that. It clicks, as you can see, clicks here onto the wristband, and then this end here you can connect to any of the four corners and here. But I'd say if you nearly want to have this end connected to the side, any of the two sides nearer to you, any of these two sides here nearer to you, the safe kind of stretching over, say, what you're working on. Now this now here's the motherboard. You start by taking this motherboard out. We just lift the flaps here, and this here lifts up. And as you can see, you've got your motherboard here in its anti-static bag here. You just go ahead and lift this out, and then just put the box just neatly out of the way if you can. And the bag say opens up like this here. When you're handling your motherboard, always make sure that you're handling it by the edges like this here when you take it out. See, what you do is you gently take it out to the bag like this, take it out like that. As I said, you want to handle your motherboard kind of like this here, by the edges of it, like that. And as you can see here, this is what the motherboard looks like. And what have you got here is you've got your motherboard, your CPU socket here. You've got two latches here for attaching your heatsink when you've got your CPU installed here on your motherboard. Here, where you see my finger here, is the first. This here is the first M.2 drive where you can install your first M.2 SSD drive for installing your operating system on. And here is your second M.2 SSD drive where you can have for storage or whatever you specifically want to use this second drive for. And over here you've got your RAM chips. Bearing in mind that given that this particular motherboard has got 4 RAM slots, this has dual memory capability, which means I'll show you what the dual memory is meant by dual memory once I get the CPU installed. I'll show you what dual memory. I'll show you what is meant by dual memory once I get the CPU installed on this motherboard before attaching the heatsink. Also on this motherboard you've got your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here you've got your 24-pin main power supply. Here you've got a full 8-pin power supply for your CPU, along with an additional 4-pin power connector, which will allow you to overclock your CPU if you so choose to do so in the future. This here with the silver edges on it, and which is your PCIe Express, which has 16 lanes which has got 16 lanes to allow you to make the most use out of your graphics card, rather than using this ordinary PCIe 4 lanes, which you don't want to use for your graphics card. Like you could use a second. You could probably use this one if it was the same as this one here, but for this particular motherboard, always use this one here, the PCIe Express expansion slot, which has 16 channels to allow you to make better use of your graphics card. And now what we're going to do now is to install our Ryzen CPU. And what you do is you open it here, and you see here is where your CPU, where you see your CPU here in the box. It's just this silver part here, and you want to go ahead and take that out of the box. And as you can see, here's your CPU right here, right here. That's it there. Now to install, before you take the CPU out of its box, before you take the CPU out of its box, what you want to do is gently push and pull the lever here up out of the way, like that, and the tray bed will slide back. Lift the lever, basically you want to lift this up, say. I'll do that again. Now when you're installing your CPU, this little lever here, silver lever here, what you want to do is just gently press on that, push it slightly to the left, and then push it slightly to the left, and then lift it up, and then lift it up, and then come along here, take your CPU and be very and what you want to do here is to gently open this particular casing that the CPU is in. Be very, very careful not to rip it open. There you go. Be very, very gentle now. And the same with the motherboard. What you have to understand, what you want to do here with the CPU is to just touch it by the sides, lift it by the sides, like that. Lift it by the sides like that there. You always want to touch your CPU like that there, because this is how you want to handle your CPU. And when you're installing your CPU for the first time, what you want to do is to line the little arrow. You want to line the little arrow that's faint. There's this faint here on the bottom right hand corner. The way you see the writing here, as you normally be written inside a page of a book, it's the bottom right hand corner. Is what you want to look for, that arrow here. And what you want to do with this is you want to line this arrow up with the arrow that's in the right down here in the bottom right hand corner of the what you want to do is gently lower the CPU down on that. It'll sit down like that. Now what you want to do is you want to push this back, and you'll feel a bit of resistance. You'll feel a bit of resistance when you're pushing the lever back, and then gently push it back into place, as you've seen right there. And that's your CPU installed. And here's our two 16 gigabytes of Vengeance LPX memory. And what we want to do is just lift that up like that, and just be careful not to touch the gold pins, the same as you wouldn't want, and be careful not to touch the pins the same way as that you don't touch the pins of the CPU. Just get one of these out if I can. You gotta put your first RAM chip like this. You put it here on this one, and this first RAM slot. You skip this one. You put your second RAM chip on this one here, and then you leave that one empty. Once you've made note of where the notch here is on the RAM slot, you want to say line that up with the notch you see here on your RAM module. And what you want to do is, before you install that, is these little these levers here, and what you want to do is you pull that back. Take your memory RAM module with one end in like that, and then the other end like that. Make sure that's put it in properly like that, and then once you got your RAM memory stick in like that, you want to make sure you have it lined up, push slightly in like that, and then what you do is you just push down like that, and it's like that, and that when you push your RAM slot, when you push your RAM memory module down into the memory slots on this side, you push that down. When you push that down, this will automatically go back up, locking your RAM module, and this will lock down. Open this latch here for the second memory module. Like that, and you line the notch here, you line the notch here on your memory module with the notch here on the RAM slot here on the motherboard, as you did with the other one, and then you put your second memory module into this slot here, sit it in properly hopefully, and then you push down on it, and then that's clicked into place now. Now this is what the dual memory looks like. You put your first memory module here, you skip this second RAM slot here, you put your second RAM memory module here, and this one, and then you leave this other RAM slot empty. Now this configuration, as you see here, this is what dual memory looks like. This is what's meant by dual memory. Now what we'll do next is to install the first M.2 SSD memory chips in here. And what I want here is what I use here is this here, this toolkit. What I want is this tool here. I want this tool here along with a Phillips screw head to help open these slots. to open these screws. And here, to look at that. This is the Phillips screw head that I'm going to attach to this here to help open this, to take this heatsink off the M.2 drive to install the M.2 SSD memory module. Be very careful here. There, and what you do is, if this lifts off, this cover here lifts off, and like that there. Now this motherboard comes with two razors like this here, or two spacers or two razors in order for you to install your M.2 SSD solid state drives here in the drives. You just put them in three different spots here depending on the particular model of SSD M.2 SSD that you purchased to use as the main boot drive or secondary storage here. And that's what this here, and I'll show you. I have one already installed here, and I will show you how to screw this one here for the second one when I get that far. Oh yeah. So what I do here is I get this. So I take this 250 gig M.2 SSD solid state drive to install here, and what I want to do is install it in the slot here, and always make sure to install it at an angle, and you find it firmly click into place. Make sure you remove the screw here first, as I should have done. Now, and what you want to do is you gently push this down on the razor head here, screw that into place, and that there is your first M.2 SSD solid state drive installed for your system. And what you want to do now here is to get this here, your heatsink, your cover for the M.2, and see this zip here you want to peel off. You want to peel this here off. There's only a little film on the pad. Just gently get it and put, you see, hold on. So you just gently pull this film off that, and that'll sit on top of your M.2 SSD. And this is going to be a bit fiddly to try to get back on. And there for the second M.2, you just do the same as before. you move the lift that off, pull it out, and then open your second M.2, the 500 gig. Now bear in mind this is the 500 gig M.2 SSD, and this one here is the M.2 SSD 250 gig that I'm using for my boot drive, and maybe use this one here for my storage or second drive, or down there. Now what you want to do is you want to get your second riser and screw it here in order for the end of the second M.2 SSD to screw into, like this. And just be very, very careful here, because I know it's very fiddly to try to get these risers screwed in initially. They're very, very fiddly. But then again, nothing's easy. And once that's tight enough, you then get your second M.2 SSD. We've held it with the edges. And again, you want to set this at an angle, and then when you get it pushed in, you want to push it down, and there you go. Once you've got it pushed into place, you then get your screw, and then to tighten it down. And then gently push this down into place. Then again, another very fiddly, but then once you get it started, you then screw it down into place. There you go. That's it installed. And again, with this, what you want to do is to peel this part off, and be very careful you don't take the pad off as well. Just take it nice and easy. Once you get it started, get a grip of it, you then pull that off. And then you line the screws up with the original holes. And then screw it into place. That's your two, and now this is your two M.2 SSDs now installed, which means, and as well as your RAM, your CPU, and now all we need to do now is to install the heatsink. What I'm going to do now here is to take the heatsink cooler. What I'm going to do is to take the heatsink out and the fan. What I'm doing is I'm going to take this here, just the cool stock. This is the Amd cooler. Take that out. Box. Put that down. Take a look at the box. Box like this, take the bottom off. Be careful here with this particular one. That's the cooler installed. I think this has got RGB, maybe RGB. I think that's all we can do for now with the motherboard. All we have to do is install all this into the motherboard and everything into the computer case, and hopefully it'll work. The computer case that I'm using is the Corsair Carbide Series 100R windowed mid-tower ATX computer case, and the colour of it is black, as you can see. I'm using the Stret Power 11 from Be Quiet, and this has 750 watts. The graphics card that I'm using here is the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 660, and I do realise that it's possibly a 9-year-old graphics card at this stage, but it's the only graphics card that I can afford to use at this point, and I'm only using it temporary until I have the funds to buy a more appropriate graphics card for this particular PC build. This is what the system looks like, and yes, I am aware that I have got the cooler here upside down. The AMD here should be kind of up here in the left hand corner. Kind of realised that now that I kind of installed that, I've installed that wrong, but I was thinking maybe I could take this off and clean off the pre-applied thermal paste that did come with this, and I tried to and I hope to try to reapply the thermal paste myself and then reinstall the cooler the other way. Please like, comment, subscribe, and please click the bell, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. This is IT Man Computers.